1. During the winter hunt, when Yang voluntarily took off his outer robe and draped it over Miss Song, whose clothes had torn, narrowly exposing her modesty, to protect Song Wanna's reputation, he turned around angrily and shouted at the crowd, "Everyone look away." In an instant, the young masters and ladies around me shot me glances of all kinds. When Yang noticed and frowned at me, "Jealousy is one of the 7 reasons for divorce for a woman. It's just an outer robe, besides. Miss Song is an unmarried lady, she can't wear other men's clothes, don't make trouble out of nothing." I gripped the crossbow in my hand tightly and interrupted him loudly, "If young master Wen cherishes Miss Song so much, surely you wouldn't bear to let her be a concubine. I'll send your marriage proposal back to the Wen mansion tomorrow. Our engagement is over. A marriage alliance between 2 noble families is not something I can uphold alone. This way, I won't end up being framed for adultery by the 2 of them after marriage, and having to set fire to the Wen mansion to die with them when there's no way out." Hearing my words, Wen Yang froze for a moment, then said solemnly, "Shenji Hua, is it really necessary to call off the engagement? Although Wanna and I share mutual feelings, I'm still engaged to you. A man of integrity must stand tall. I won't abandon you. After I beg my mother, I'll take Wanna as a co-wife when you enter the mansion. This way, Wanna won't be wronged as a concubine, and our engagement will still hold. It's a perfect solution." Chundao, who was behind me, was so angry she crushed the pastries in her hand. "Miss is your fiancée, how dare you humiliate her in public for another woman?" At this point, Song Wanna's face had stiffened. Even she knew that Madam Wen would never allow her to enter the mansion as a co-wife with me. Yet when Yang could say such words without batting an eye, it was only because we were engaged that I had been treating him kindly these days. Did Wen Yang really think all other men in the world were dead? What a greedy fool. Song Wanna secretly raised her eyebrows. "It's all Wanna's fault for causing misunderstandings between sister and brother Wen. But there are so many men here, I can't wear other men's robes, it would harm a woman's reputation. We're both women. And brother Wen and I have always addressed each other as siblings. I thought sister wouldn't overthink it, but who knew?" Chuantao's face turned bright red with anger. "You," I scoffed. "What a pair of good siblings they were. In my previous life, Song Wanna entered the Wen mansion as a concubine, but Madam Wen despised her intensely. She often summoned her under the pretense of teaching her rules, punishing her for an entire day at a time. She even kept Song Wanna detained at night, preventing the 2 of them from consummating their marriage. At that time, when Yang suspected that I had deliberately sown discord between Madam Wen and Song Wanna, and treated me extremely coldly. Later, when I was framed by the 2 of them, Madam Wen originally planned to push Song Wanna forward to take the blame and eliminate her, but Master Wen took the initiative to resolve the matter. I still remember how furious Madam Wen was back then, as if an angry wife was confronting her unfaithful husband. Good siblings indeed, I should really help them out. I let out a heavy breath. In my previous life, I had let my guard down and fallen into their trap. Fortunately, the night before they were going to drown me in a pig cage, I used my hidden shops to bribe the guards and set fire to the Wen mansion. But after all they had done to me, how could that be enough to quench my anger? I pulled the crossbow fully loaded, aimed, shot. In the next moment, the arrow pierced through Song Wanna's hair bun and nailed itself to Wen Yang's official hat. 1 arrow, 2 people. Letting out a faint zing, Song Wanna touched her scattered hair bun with lingering fear, too shocked to speak. Wen Yang looked up in horror. What are you trying to do?" I smoothed out my sleeves. "I've made myself very clear, I never knew you." Wen Yang was such a fool who can't understand words. Can you even follow Master Morjai's lectures at the academy? I heard Master Wen recently wants to send you to apply to be a prince's official to assist in state affairs. If word gets out that you can't even understand simple words, do you think you'll get what you want and enter the palace? Dare to falsely accuse me again, and next time, the arrow won't hit your hat, too." As soon as I returned to the tent, a maid came to report. "Miss, Madam Wen sent someone just now, saying she wants to see you when you get back. She's here to smooth things over for Wen Yang. Last year, the Shen and Wen families made a marriage alliance. At that time, Wen Yang still had a good reputation in the capital. and was studying under Master Morjai. His future seemed promising. The Wen family was a noble clan, though it had gradually declined in recent years, but it still retained the heritage of a noble family. Once when Yang entered the court as an official, the Wen family's resurgence was just around the corner, but this was only possible with the help of my father, a rising star in the court. Through the marriage alliance, the Shun family could connect with the noble clans, and the Wen family could gain the Shun family's support to restore its former glory. Thus, the glory of both families could be continued. But a few months ago, when Yang accidentally met Song Wanna and became infatuated, obsessed with the idea of marrying her, in my previous life, Madam Wen threatened the Song family to keep Song Wanna locked up at home, then took Wen Yang to the Song mansion to apologize. Wen Yang personally admitted that the two of them had cut off all contact. After all, it was a marriage alliance between two families. Marrying someone was just marrying someone. But who would have thought that after the marriage, Wen Yang would blame everything on me, accusing me of being extremely jealous and marrying him by any means necessary. He was the one who benefited from the marriage alliance, and he was also the one who held a grudge afterwards. If he had really been unwilling, no one could have forced him to apologize or marry me on his behalf. Naturally, the Wen family wasn't the only option for marriage, but he wanted both my father's support and his beloved. What a thick-skinned man. Madam Wen is here to clean up after her overgrown baby son again. Chun Dao looked displeased. The Wen family is too much. Are you really going to see her, miss? I looked at the mandarin ducks embracing on the handkerchief. This had fallen from Wen Yang's body today, and I had never given him such a thing. Of course I'm going to give her a surprise. Coincidentally, there's a banquet tonight, no need to make a special trip. If she wants to cover up for her son's shame, I'll strip Wen Yang of his last shred of dignity. 3. Many noble families had come to the hunt today, mostly for fun. They wanted to give Princess Chang face, and also take the opportunity to socialize with other officials' wives. Ji Hua is here, come sit quickly. As soon as I arrived, the ladies who were close to my mother hurried to greet me. Word of today's incident had spread like wildfire, and in the afternoon, I had sent Chun Dao out to spread the news further. I made sure no one was left out, even the dog at Princess Chang's feet could have heard about it. It's only been a few days, and our Ji Hua has grown even more beautiful. Yes, look at her demeanor, she's a role model among officials' daughters. Only a reckless fool who can't tell right from wrong would treat Ji Hua badly. Several ladies spoke up for me, deliberately making remarks to provoke Madam Wen. Madam Wen's smile stiffened on her face as she reached out to pull me. That's right, I've been looking forward to Ji Hua entering the mansion soon. Any family that gets such a good daughter-in-law would smile in their sleep. Yang is indeed a bit childish. I'll stand up for you and reprimand him severely. I just smiled and bowed, then took out my handkerchief to gently wipe the corner of my eye, leaning into my mother's arms. When Yang is childish, I'm even younger than him. Am I supposed to tolerate him like his own mother? I've always acted with perfect etiquette, no one could find a single fault with me. Had Wen Yang learned all his morality and integrity for nothing? Madam Wen awkwardly withdrew her hand, about to change the subject, but a straightforward voice spoke up. I heard Miss Shen said she wants to call off the engagement with your son today, yet Madam Wen still wants Miss Shen to enter your mansion. 400 of years since the founding of the Dasheng dynasty, not even kings, marquises, or even His Majesty the Emperor have ever taken a co-wife. I wonder what kind of person your son is to think he can have it all. Guard Zheng came from a military background, a female guard who had fought many victories for Princess Chang and the Dasheng dynasty. In my previous life, she was also the one who publicly proposed a thorough investigation into my adultery case. But all she got was laughter. At that time, my father was in a difficult position in the court. She had spoken up for me, and I was afraid she had suffered because of it. What she said was unrelenting, and even involved the emperor. Although she was right, if word spread, it might be used by those with malicious intentions. I couldn't let her get caught up in more gossip because of me. I immediately stood up and bowed to Princess Chang, who was seated at the top. Guard Zheng speaks the truth. As the saying goes, harmony between husband and wife brings peace to the family. Peace in the family brings peace of mind. Peace of mind brings clarity in government affairs. His Majesty and the Empress are in perfect harmony, they are the model of a couple in this subject's heart. As for ordinary couples, only when they respect each other, live in harmony inside and out, can the family be stable. This subject will take their Majesties as an example. Cultivate my moral character, and fulfill my duties as a daughter. Princess Chang stroked her beloved dog. Miss Shen is not disturbed by reckless words, she has a firm will and remains calm in the face of danger. Madame Shen has raised her daughter well. As soon as she finished speaking, Madame Wen suddenly collapsed to the ground. 4. I looked at the noble woman collapsed before me, just a few scoldings from the eldest princess, and she can't take it. If she knew the outcome of Wen Yang's scolding by Her Highness the Princess today, wouldn't she faint? Madame Wen, you must pay attention to your deportment. Lady Wen's face was pale as she forced herself to stand and apologize to the eldest princess. This humble woman is feeling unwell and will not disturb everyone's elegant gathering any longer. Even so, Lady Wen still did not utter a word agreeing to break off the engagement. After all, Wen Yang is currently at a crucial juncture in his career, and she would rather endure humiliation herself than let go. Mother held my hand, frowning slightly. If their family knew what was good for them and apologized and called off the engagement early, everything would be fine. But if they insisted on clinging to me shamelessly, that would be truly disgusting. It's all right. Let your father deal with the Wen family. When they can't bear it any longer, they will naturally come to apologize. I nodded obediently. I don't want to tell Mother about the past for now, but they can't easily call off my marriage with Wen Yang. 5. The original intention of the princess holding this banquet was to gather with the ladies. His Highness was afraid that the younger generation would be restrained here, so he let them play outside on their own. I tapped the rim of my glass lightly, quietly waiting for news from outside. Soon, Chun Dao came in and gave me a look, just as Mother Wen reached the door. A burst of noise erupted from outside. When it comes to relationships, everyone keeps their mouths shut and avoids talking about it. But if you were to shout on the street, "Who will come with me to catch a cheetah?" I'm afraid everyone from 8-year-old women to toddlers would join in the fun. Wen Yang and Song Wana once plotted against me and spread rumors about me everywhere, causing everyone in the capital to know that Master Shen's daughter is an unchaste woman. But unless one can completely avoid the world, public opinion is a furnace, and slander can destroy bones. Who can escape the condemnation of this secular world? Therefore, by now, the area in front of the curtain was already full of people. It really sounds like there's a noise. Can't be. The young ladies from prestigious families all blushed, yet curiosity was evident on their faces. Who do you all think is inside? There were also some incorrigible playboys who started placing bets, wagering their drinking money for the next month. How hard can it be? We just have to see who among us is missing. The first to discover the affair was young Master Liu, who couldn't keep his mouth shut. Just now, Chun Dao deliberately spilled wine on him, and then led him past the curtain where Wen Yang and Song Wana were. After he heard the sounds inside, he quietly left. He was carefully observing the crowd at this moment. It's Wen Yang, good. This kid can't even stay still when he comes out hunting. The young masters and ladies discussed in hushed voices. Mo, the nanny beside the eldest princess, coughed heavily, startling everyone. I was not aware that anyone would dare to do such an absurd thing today. Mama Li acknowledged the order and was about to step forward. Madame Wen suddenly threw herself at the feet of the eldest princess. Your Highness, please don't. This humble woman will take that unreliable Wen Yang back and discipline him. I beg you. The eldest princess frowned. Miss Shen is also here at the moment. Have you considered how she feels? Besides, the person in the room isn't necessarily young Master Wen. It might be that unruly servant, taking advantage of his master's absence to commit lewd acts in the tent. This princess cannot tolerate filth in my sight. If we don't clarify things today, it would be terrible if the reputations of the other young masters and ladies were tarnished. Wen's mother, her voice hoarse, still wanted to say something, but the guard pulled her away. Chun Dao and Granny Li immediately worked together to force the door open. 6. This was precisely when the drug was taking effect. Good horses are mostly temperamental, In order to breed excellent foals, Sima Fang specially developed this drug, which is very potent, if used on humans. The person under the influence of the drug will not regain consciousness until they are relieved. At this moment, when Yang was like a mad dog, frantically tearing at his own and the other person's clothes, suddenly interrupted, he raged impatiently, rushing out disheveled to hit someone. Song Wanna kept calling softly from behind. When Lang, although they hadn't reached the final step, under the public gaze, the two were undeniably caught. This damned world values reputation more than life. Layering shackles upon shackles on women. In my past life, when Yang feigned catching me in adultery, a woman's reputation is more important than her life. Since you've lost your honor, then commit suicide to atone for your sins. Song Wanna chimed in. Yes, sister, if it were me today, I would have already killed myself by smashing my head against the wall. I would never dare to tarnish the Wen family's reputation. I wonder, when they used such methods to frame me, did they ever imagine that they themselves would fall into such a predicament? Wen's mother wailed, "It's over, everything is over." With that, she rolled her eyes and passed out. I picked up the wash basin from the side and drenched them both. A brief moment of clarity overcame the drug's effects, and they saw the scene before them. Song Wanna screamed, "Don't look, turn away." Then, she buried herself in a pile of clothes, shivering uncontrollably. When Yang's face paled, with no escape, he knelt down with a thud and begged the eldest princess for forgiveness in order to be spared. I chuckled. People who are full of benevolence and morality are actually the least moral themselves. When it came to themselves, they were far more lenient and compassionate, never mentioning punishment, let alone self-slaughter as an apology. The scene was extremely chaotic, and the eldest princess had no choice but to order people to knock the two in the tent unconscious. A small sedan chair carried the three away. 7. Because of this incident, Father Wen was reprimanded by the emperor and has not attended court for 3 days. Madame Wen fell ill upon returning home that day. After the family doctor was helpless, many doctors were invited from outside, all of whom said she was suffering from a qi attack due to anger, a mental ailment. The effects of the medicine on Wen Yang that day had clearly not worn off, unable to alleviate it for a long time. By the time he returned to the Wen residence, it was likely that it had already left a hidden illness. As for Song Wanna, her father had passed away early, and it was said that her uncle had invoked family law. She even threatened that if the Wen family didn't come to propose, she would hang herself with a white silk cloth. Not daring to implicate the other daughters of the clan, my parents stayed by my side. The traces of the drug from that day. I've already sent Jiao Momo to help Chun Dao take care of it. Next time you encounter something like this, you should still tell your parents. We can at least lend some help. No one knows a daughter like her mother. Even though I never spoke a word to my mother, she had already seen through my thoughts. I leaned against my mother's embrace, feeling her warmth. After I carefully explained the matter to them, Father slammed the table and stood up. That old thief Wen. I have always treated him well. He usually acts like something, but inside he is rotten to the core. As they were speaking, a maidservant announced from outside the door that the Wen family had come to apologize. When Yang was seen wearing a long robe, wrapping himself up tightly, Madame Wen followed beside him, showing no signs of being too sick to get out of bed. It seemed that the doctors these past few days were actually treating young Master Wen, seeing me staring at his lower body. When Yang awkwardly shielded himself, he cleared his throat. "Jihua, this matter is my fault. I will definitely handle Wanna's side and cut off contact with her. Today's situation is not irreversible. As long as you and I successfully marry, the rumors in the capital will naturally dissipate. Don't worry. I will definitely treat you well after we get married, and I won't let down your feelings for me." Mother Wen also nodded in agreement from the side. Father lowered his head. "Searching for something. I have to beat you to death. You beast." I stopped Father. "Do you know that if you marry me, Song Wanna will be beaten to death by her uncle?" When Yang frowned, a look of suppressed anger surfacing in his eyes. "That slut seduced me. Even if she's executed, it's just ridding the people of a scourge. Her death is no cause for regret." I understood in my heart that he was blaming me again. The selection of officials for the crown prince is coming up soon. If I still have a blemish on my record, I definitely won't be selected. Jihua, I'm afraid you'll have to suffer a bit this time. Our wedding may have to be rushed. I walked up to him and smiled at him. When Yang revealed an I knew it expression, the next moment, I picked up the celadon vase beside me and smashed it against Wen Yang's head. Dark brown mud mixed with shattered porcelain shards and blood trickled down, clinging to the corners of his opening and closing mouth, making him look even more disgusting. I took a step back with disgust. If your reputation is ruined, you should obediently commit suicide and apologize. It's annoying that something dirty is still running around. When Yang's face flushed red, I'm not a woman. Before he could finish speaking, several servants stepped forward and threw him and his screaming old mother out together. I cleaned my hands with a handkerchief. Tell Song Wanna what happened today. And make sure to convey every word Wen Yang said. Both were caught cheating in public. Wen Yang still has a chance to turn things around. But Song Wanna can only wait for someone from the Wen family to come and ask for her hand in marriage. Otherwise, she will face certain death. They did it together. How can it be so biased? Song Wanna, you must strive to succeed. 8. Wen Yang is indeed a talented person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have risen so quickly in just 3 years with my father's help. Now, the path to entering the palace as a staff member of the Crown Prince is blocked. But as long as Wen's father doesn't fall, Wen Yang can still participate in the imperial examinations. After a few years, once everyone has gradually forgotten the scandal, he will be able to thrive in the capital again. It is said that Father Wen did not submit Wen Yang's name, presumably because he did not want to humiliate himself again. The Wen family emptied most of their savings to find him an old scholar who had resigned from office many years ago, apparently putting a lot of effort into his son's future. On the other hand, Song Wanna ultimately did not wait for the Wen family to propose marriage. However, Uncle Song couldn't bring himself to actually strangle her to death with a white silk cloth, so he sent Song Wanna to a dilapidated temple outside the city to live out the rest of her days. Miss Song Wanna's mother secretly went to see her, but we don't know what they said to each other inside. When the person sent to monitor Song Wanna brought back this news, I was reviewing the lessons taught by the teacher. It seems Song Wanna already knows about her background. Song Wanna may take some action next, try to provide her with assistance in secret, the next few months. When Yang ran outside more and more frequently, to make it easier to go out, he even went so far as to anger the private tutor in his house until he left, unable to do anything. Father Wen had no choice but to send him back to the academy to study. The servant I sent followed him a few times and indeed saw him always detour to the temple where Song Wanna was. That place was rarely visited, and it became a good place for them to confide in each other. When Yang played the zither, and Song Wanna sang, their deep affection resembling that of a young married couple, but the truth behind it was like arsenic coated in honey. 9. During Wen Yang's days of leisure, a major event occurred in the imperial court. The eldest princess persuaded the emperor to establish female officials in the court. The scientific expedition is imminent, and women of suitable age can participate along with men. In the previous dynasty, there were also female officials in the palace, however. These officials only managed the internal affairs of the harem, under the jurisdiction of the empress, and could not interfere in the affairs of the imperial court. Because the female officials managed the harem well, the system of female officials was successfully continued into this dynasty, and their abilities have become well known. In my previous life, after years of effort, the eldest princess finally persuaded the emperor to allow women to participate in the imperial examinations and become officials, in order to recruit talents for the court. But at that time, I was troubled by the matter of having children, and coupled with the strong opposition from Wen Yang's parents, I ultimately failed to attend. I looked at the newly written essay in my hand. Wen Yang is arrogant and proud of his talent, so I will completely crush him in the place where he is most proud, soon. The imperial examination was approaching. Miss, I don't know what tricks Wen Yang used to bring Song Wanna back to the Wen family. Although Wen's parents were unwilling, they still allowed her to enter the house. I nodded. The imperial examination is coming soon, and they probably don't want to go against their son's wishes, so as not to distract him in the examination hall. Has Song Wanna been informed of that? Chun Dao nodded smugly. I guarantee she'll hear every word clearly and use them all on Wen Yang that day. On the day of the imperial examination, I met Wen Yang outside the palace. Seeing me, he looked agitated. My mother told me everything. Don't think I don't know you're the one who harmed me. You truly have the most vicious heart of any woman. He sized me up and down. Luckily, our two families have already broken off the engagement. Otherwise, I really wouldn't dare marry a woman like you who shows her face in public. Look how gentle Wanna is. As a woman, you shouldn't covet what you don't deserve. Look at how many women came today. Those like you really violate ethical principles. I laughed out loud. What are ethical principles? I wouldn't dare compare myself to him. I looked at the pitifully few women in front of me. From a young age, women were constrained by the 3 obediences and 4 virtues. Those from impoverished families would chop firewood and cook early on, doing laundry, sewing, and earning money to support the family, joining together to use the entire family's strength to support a son's education. Those from wealthy families were also taught women's rules and women's instructions. What they read and learned was all about how to be a good mistress of the house, how to serve their husbands well. When would they ever encounter textbooks for boys? Are you questioning His Majesty's decision? I said loudly, making sure everyone around me could hear. When Yang panicked, don't you dare slander me. I didn't mean that at all. It was soon my turn to enter the arena on the women's side. When Yang was still outside the hall, frantically explaining. But I had already arrived at the search area. Guard Zheng, it's you. Zheng Qingzi was dressed in armor, a stark contrast to her appearance in the eldest princess's tent that day. Her whole being exuded authority, and I seemed to see, through this attire, the scene of her fighting bloody battles on the battlefield. Suddenly, I recalled what Wen Yang had said outside the hall: women are not of one kind, we should be diverse and colorful. After Zheng Qingzi carefully examined me from head to toe, he nodded to signal that I could pass. The moment I sat in the examination cell, I realized that what I had sought and failed to obtain in my previous life had come true. I looked up. All before me was a smooth road. 10. The next day, a commotion came from next door, but it was quickly suppressed, and next door became quiet again. All sorts of accidents can happen during scientific expeditions, and the others were used to it. After all, in the face of huge profits, there will always be those who take risks. I refocused my attention on the exam paper in front of me. In this day and age, floods and droughts occur frequently. The borders are not yet settled. The granaries are gradually empty and the people are exhausted. Thinking of the ancestors' system of valuing agriculture and caring for soldiers, how can we inherit it today? What methods can be used to reform official malpractices and revitalize agriculture? My father used to be a local official, but he came from humble beginnings. At that time, I was just a little child following behind him, accompanying him to the fields to raise fish and shrimp. The common people depended on the weather for their livelihoods, and a favorable climate meant a bumper harvest. 3 years ago, there was a severe drought in Huiju. I followed my father to see the rice paddies planted by the villagers. The seedlings in the field were sparse and pitiful, as if a gust of wind could blow them all away. The cracks in the ground were like the mouths of monsters in storybooks, capable of swallowing people whole in one bite. At that time, the villagers were preparing for the rain sacrifice. They set up altars, offered sacrifices, and knelt on the ground to kowtow, sincerely praying for the mercy of heaven. An old man in his 70s, exposed to the sun, prayed for self-immolation to move the heavens. I exhaled deeply, writing down what I had thought over the years. Now that floods and droughts occur frequently, and the people are withering, the problem lies in the failure to repair agricultural administration. First, set up granaries in each village, storing grain in good years and lending it out in bad years, to prepare for emergencies. Second, carry out water conservancy projects. If rivers and canals are blocked, there will be no preparation for droughts and floods. Third, 11. Walking out of the main hall, my parents and Chun Dao squeezed to the very front of the crowd, waiting, and she waved happily as soon as she saw me. "Miss, over here." On the way back, they were all very curious, constantly asking about the exam questions and how I answered them. I patiently answered them one by one. But what I'm most concerned about is whether Song Wana succeeded. Yesterday, the officers dragged several people out of there. Among them was the Wen family's son. He cried and shouted that he hadn't cheated, but the proctor had already found his crib notes. Song Wana hid it really well. She actually hid the cheat sheet in Wen Yang's shoe and stitched it in with needles. I ate a piece of Chuanxiang house pastry, so Song Wana went to report them. Father nodded. When the old thief learned about Song Wana's background and wanted to get rid of her and her mother, but we rescued Song Wana. It's just that her mother is still in the hands of the Wen family. Now Song Wana has completely lost her scruples and has completely fallen out with them. In my past life, my father discovered Song Wana's true identity on the very day she married into our family. Feeling guilty towards her, he wanted to do everything he could to make it up to her. It was his unusual treatment of Song Wana that made my mother suspicious. After the two of them framed me, his first thought was to cover for them, wanting to take advantage of the fact that no one knew and drown me in the pond. Now, for the sake of Wen Yang and his own precarious position, he could harden his heart and strike at Song Wana. It's clear how genuine his fatherly love is, truly hypocritical to the extreme. I'm going to see Song Wana, 12, in the old Shen mansion. Song Wana lay on the couch, covered in wounds. Seeing me arrive, she struggled to sit up. I didn't expect that you would be the one to save me in the end. I deliberately provoked you in the past, and even harbored ill intentions towards you, yet you still helped me. What exactly do you want? I turned around and sat down, my face full of kindness. I heard they are looking for you everywhere. You can stay here with me. However, I heard the Wen family has an extra servant. And Wen's mother torments her every day. Song Wana clenched her fists in anger. Vixen. Seeing her emotional, I continued, you never knew your father growing up, and it was your mother who protected you and raised you in difficult times, but I don't need to say more about the hardships involved. You know it better than I do. Song Wana was already in tears. I already know about your background. What do you think will happen to your mother now that she's in the hands of Madame Wen? Not to mention, you've ruined her son's future and almost caused Wen's father to be dismissed from his post. They probably hate you to death by now, but since you're here with me, they'll just have to take all their anger out on your mother. I sighed leisurely. I wonder how much longer she can hold on. Song Wana crawled to the ground, prostrating herself at my feet. Please, save my mother. You must have a way, right? Her tears splashed onto my shoes, which my mother had sewn for me with her own hands. I frowned and kicked her away. Song Wana, it's better to rely on yourself than to ask for help. Think carefully about what bargaining chips you still have in your hand, and don't hide them, otherwise, believe me, you will soon be collecting your mother's body. 13. The day before the results are released, a curious thing has happened in the capital. I sat on the second floor of Wangchun Pavilion, listening to the endless chatter of the people downstairs. Lord Wen is having an affair with the eldest daughter of the Song family. How could that be? I heard that the eldest daughter of the main family is the posthumous child of Lord Shen. Madame Shen gave birth prematurely to a baby girl in the 7th month of her pregnancy, but the infant had no congenital deficiencies. According to the midwife, the child's size was no different from that of a normally delivered infant. Yes. I've seen that Miss Song. Her eyes and eyebrows are very similar to Lord Wen's. Is that Miss Song who had a secret affair with young Master Wen? Exactly. Oh dear, what a scandal. I sat upstairs listening with great interest, but downstairs, Madame Wen's face was almost distorted. The matron beside her scolded, "Shut up. What nonsense are you talking about? If you dare to make up stories again, believe me, I'll throw you all into the yamen." The gossiping people immediately quieted down. But some were unconvinced, just putting on an act. Song Wana has already gone to file a lawsuit with the emperor. You'll be waiting to be thrown in jail. The lives of the rich and powerful are truly exciting, beyond anything we could imagine, always threatening people. I'm so scared. In her fear, Madame Wen fainted. Her face pale, Song Wana accused Father Wen of rape and illegally detaining an official's wife, and of neglecting her for many years after her birth. Failing to fulfill his duties as a father, Madame Wen murdered Madame Song with cruel and unspeakable means. When Yang behaved inappropriately with his own sister, ruining her reputation, and later attempted to silence her permanently, involving court officials, the emperor was furious, rebuking Wen's father for his unworthiness and deciding to personally investigate the case. Afterward, Wen's father was dismissed from his official post, and the Wen family was expelled from the capital. Never to return. 14. By the time the list of successful candidates was announced, the Wen family's affairs were considered completely over. Chundao pointed at the names of the top 3 on the list, covering her mouth with emotion and bursting into tears. "Miss, it's you, it says Shenjihua up there." I took out my handkerchief and carefully wiped away the tears from her face. "Her Royal Highness the Princess summons you. Wouldn't you be a laughingstock if you showed up looking like this?" The carriage arrived at the princess's residence, where the eldest princess was sitting in the courtyard, sipping tea. "I saw your courage that day, and that you could get that kind of medicine in such a short time, and cover up all traces afterward. So I knew you were capable." I was taken aback, but today's visit shouldn't be to interrogate me, otherwise, she could have exposed me that day. I knelt respectfully. "Your Highness, I am terrified. Even though I have tried my best to be meticulous, I still cannot escape your discerning eyes." Quite a while passed, so long that I began to doubt myself, and cold sweat gradually broke out on my forehead. The princess slowly approached. It is not easy for women to navigate the world, and even more difficult for women who enter the court. Therefore, what I've always wanted are not the indecisive, but those who can snatch a piece of meat from the mouths of wolves and tigers. I looked up to meet the princess's eyes, and she took the opportunity to help me up. "Do you know why His Majesty suddenly agreed to women entering the court as officials? This is also what I have been wondering about." She picked up her teacup and chuckled. "My imperial brother, though skilled at utilizing talent, is far too wary, exchanging the entire Yangju city's military strength for your entry into the court. Did I make a loss or a profit in this deal?" I remained silent for a long time, having heard of the reputation of the Yangju troops, that His Highness is willing to give them up. As if sensing my thoughts, she chuckled. "Are you wondering why I don't just seize power?" I quickly looked outside, afraid someone might have overheard. She burst into laughter. "The Emperor is talented in governing the country, while I only want to lead troops into battle. It's all for the stability of the people and the peace of the nation. Conflict between us would benefit no one." I bowed respectfully to Her Highness. "Your Highness is righteous." As I walked out of the princess's residence, her words to me still echoed in my ears. "I just paved the way for women. The rest of the journey you have to explore yourselves." 15. The Wen family and Song Wanna were secretly detained by the eldest princess. By the time I arrived, Wen's mother in the Wen residence was already terminally ill and on the verge of death. When Yang had become insane, and began kowtowing incessantly when he saw me. "I was wrong, Jihua, please forgive me. I will definitely treat you well." I walked to Song Wanna, who was standing there blankly. "I have already buried your mother. You've come to kill me." I nodded. "That's right." She rolled her eyes. "Do you know how miserable my childhood was? If I couldn't grab onto Wen Yang's lifeline, I would have been dragged to death by the clan. So, I came up with that idea. I had someone put the medicine Wen Yang bought into your food, but I never expected. It's truly fate playing tricks." I suddenly slapped her hard across the face. "You're pitiful. But I'm even more pitiful. Being pitiful is no excuse for your wickedness. You really deserve to die." Song Wanna suddenly burst into tears, then pulled out the hidden hairpin and stabbed it fiercely at her throat. She fell in a pool of blood, gasping a few times. Then, she completely lost her breath. When Yang hid to the side, trembling uncontrollably, looking closely, there was a patch of yellow liquid under him. "Don't kill me, we have no grievances." I clapped my hands, and the people waiting outside filed in. Someone, with a swift stroke, cut off that thing beneath him. "Wen Yang, the moment I saw you, I knew you were back too, right? Since that's the case, I'll send you to the Spring Breeze Pavilion to be a male prostitute, so you can properly experience this pain." Wen's father and mother had just witnessed the tragic state of their son and had already breathed their last. Stepping out of the courtyard, I exhaled a heavy breath of foul air. From now on, I must live for myself, and for the countless women who suffer. 16. Zheng Qingzi became a general. She came to tell me the good news excitedly. She used to be just a small guard following the princess, but now she has become a female general of Darsheng, formally stepping into the court. You have fought so many victories with Her Royal Highness the Princess. You deserve it. We walked together on the street and past a private school, looking at the girls reading inside. A smile appeared on her face. Half of the candidates who passed the imperial examination this year are women. That's amazing. I nodded. Black hair doesn't restrain soaring ambitions. Women were always remarkable. The person who once mocked women for being unworthy of the imperial examination has now turned to ash. The Princess Royal has gotten some good tea. Let's hurry over. Xianxia grabbed my hand and walked quickly forward. I looked back at the children. Your Highness, we've made a killing on this deal.